Hi everybody and welcome. Today we are going to be answering the question on whether we can bloom paint with regular pour paint. That's right, you guys, you heard me correctly. I'm going to be attempting to bloom paint with just regular paint. I had a lot of regular pour paint in cups and I decided I just felt like a bloom. So we're going to be pour painting with regular pour paints, or at least attempting to, and I'm going to show you my result at the end. Now, I do have a little bit of base paint that is a mixture of about half regular pour paint with the Floetrol and the water, because that's all that's going to be in my colors today. Now, my base, as you can see, is sort of a lilac color, and it's just a mix of stuff that I had poured off of another painting. And it does have a little bit of house paint in there. I'm going to be honest with you. So if you just have house paint for this, hopefully it will work. This is a fairly thin house paint because it has so much other paint mixed in. So it does have Floetrol, it does have water, and it does have regular, mostly Liquitex paints in it. So that being said, that's going to be my base. It's just runoff paint, but you could use house paint here that you've watered down or add a little bit of paint to, or you can try to use a very thick form of your pour paint that is in a base color, whatever base color that you want. Mine is just going to be runoff because I like to conserve and I like to recycle, so that's what I'm going to be doing today. Now this is just a 10-inch wood round. It's fairly thin. Again, I am using what I have. Now if you don't have a wood round, you could use a silicone mat like I have underneath here. This is a round silicone mat, so if I want to spin my Lazy Susan, which you can pick up on Amazon and I'll put links below, then you can just do this on a silicone mat and make an awesome skin that you can use for a project. Because if you know me, I'm always making skins. But today we're going to be blooming. So let me put this down and I'm going to go ahead and lay down some base paint right in the middle. I did go ahead and take my level. I have moved my table and made sure that I had a fairly level surface before I began. Now I'm just going to start with some in the middle, and then I'm going to go from there, try to keep it in the middle, which, as you know, can be a very difficult thing to do. Okay, I'm going to begin laying down my paint, starting with, and yes, I did have rainbow colors here, and my others are over here, so that I have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, there we go, and violet. So I did have the whole Roy G. Biv here, but I'm not going to be using red, at least I don't think I will. I'm just going to be keeping to the end color of my rainbow spectrum. And I'm going to go ahead and start over on the end with my violet. And this is actually violet. This is from Master's Touch, and it is the color of violet, actually. All of my paints are mixed with 3 parts of Floetrol and 1 part paint, and I'll have some water, sometimes a little bit more Floetrol depending on my paint. My colors today, as I've said, are the ones you see below. This is actually an orange with a little bit of yellow in it. It's a yellow orange from Creative Impressions, and I will list all the colors down below in the description. So let me get these going before they spread too much. I'm going to add my indigo, which is a mixture of violet and blue, and then I'm going to add Thalocyanine blue. This is from Liquitex. And I'm going to come back, I think, and put just a little bit more of my violet in the middle. I'm getting kind of already a big puddle. So that's what happens when you're not using bloom paint. Bloom paint is normally mixed with something like Deep Base 8300 from Behr, which is an untinted base for dark paints that you use to paint your house with. And it's usually mixed with Joe Sonia varnish or another kind of varnish. So you mix that with a pigment or a paint and you make your bloom paint. I have a whole video on how to make bloom paints. You can check that out. But we're answering the question on whether you can bloom paint with your regular pour paints that you would mix for pour painting. Are they interchangeable? So I'm going to go ahead and add my yellow on top of my purple, and then I'm going to add some orange, or in this case, yellow orange. Okay. Now I am going to be using a cell activator today. This is just Australian Floetrol. You don't have to use this. We're going to see how this pans out. You can see how the purple is already showing like it's a cell activator in and of itself. So sometimes your combinations of paints, in this case a Master's Touch paint and just Floetrol and water, can act as a cell activator, but I am going to add a little bit on top. But first I'm going to add a little bit more base around the edges because we have to really spread out on this. And I want to make sure that my bloom has enough room. I'm also going to move it. I've got a lot of movement going on, and again, that can be a problem with just using regular paint. A lot of movement going on. Okay. I am going to add some cell activator today before I begin blowing. Okay, quite a bit of cell activator. Okay, we have already a lot going on. So I'm going to begin blowing. I had to take off my neck brace. My neck is bothering me again. And I'm going to pull my hair back. Okay, take a look and see what we have here. Here is what I am seeing. Now notice there's not a lot of cells in the middle, but it is still quite beautiful. A lot of detail on the petals of the bloom, but it's very chaotic in the middle. So let's begin a little bit of work. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in the middle a little bit. Add a little bit of paint right around the edges where I am missing some. My blooms tend to never stay in the middle, even though I try to make sure that my blooms are balanced. The question is, how is this going to react if I start playing in this with the regular paint? And I'm going to do that now. Let me grab a paper towel. Actually, I like how it's reacting. I'm not having any problems with it staying. If your base paint is thick enough, you don't seem to have a lot of trouble. And I may speak too soon. To give a little more separation here. Now this one ended up being a little bit light. Trying to work quickly around this. Now, what I do notice about this is that we do have a lot of running going on, but all in all, it stayed pretty well. Let me go ahead and give you an overhead shot. I have a lot of lights. So you can see that I did keep a lot of definition with this bloom. So all in all, pretty good. Now let me go ahead and give this a good torch. I do see some bubbles, which happens with recently mixed paint. So I'm going to give it a really long torch. Okay, so I'm going to give this a spin. This is the scary part for me. Let's see, and I'm seeing too that we've got a lot of purple cells coming through now. So it just keeps on developing. I feel like maybe I should wait for a minute. Okay. Very gentle spin on this one because I feel like we might need to add just a tiny bit more paint right here. Just a little bit. Try to adjust. Since I've done so much work on my petals, I hate to lose them. I'm going to go through and you can see the difference that I really have a lot of my petals closing up on me. Okay, I am really liking this, so I'm going to let it dry. I want to see a couple of things. One, I'm using a wood round on this, so I want to see how that's going to dry. This is going to soak up quite a lot of paint. I know that from experience because this is just plain wood. But I also want to see, do we hold this shape? Does it disappear? And I may do a little fiddling right here on this edge. I don't like it, but I will be back and show you how it dried. And I'm going to be answering that question onto whether you can use regular pour paint to bloom. So far, so good. Okay, it's been 24 hours and you can see how it dried. It actually dried and held up pretty well. It escaped over the side just a little bit. There was definitely a little bit of run there. There's no definitive cells, but the middle is kind of interesting in and of itself, even though you don't have that normal cell of the cell activator. Now, I also did another one. Let me pull it up here. This one's got a little more blue, and it had a little bit more cells. You can see how the orange has cells. They are a little bit elongated, but in both cases I was able to replicate it, and guess what? You can indeed make beautiful blooms with regular pour paint, even though you may not have definitive cells. Thanks for watching, and leave a comment below about your experience. Bye now.